Good morning or good afternoon. I'm just checking out my background here. Good morning, Allie. Or I guess it really is afternoon as of 2 minutes from now, depending on where you are. Can you hear me now? Testing. I'm going to test my volume out real quick. Perfect. And I think it's just the two of us right now, Allie. Well, good afternoon. If anyone else is in this room, put a message in the chat or feel free to say hello. We'll get started in just another minute or two once we see how many other people are joining us. Allie, can you hear me now? All right. And I see 3 people observing, but only 2 of us listed in this session under people. Does that mean it's just you and me? Good afternoon. Erica, are you in here as well? Feel free to put a little message in the chat or if you want to say a quick hello. I'm just trying to see who's here so I can tailor the session to others. And Allie, this is a good chance to test my volume too. Can you all hear me? Before we get started, if we can test out the chat box, say hello if you're here. And yes, we'll get started shortly. Also, please say yes if you can hear me in the chat box as well. Wonderful. Thank you, Allie. Erica, are you in the space too? So, Allie, question for you. If it's just the two of us, I didn't know if you were attending just to moderate or if this is an interest area of yours. And it could be awkward just presenting one-on-one, but I'm happy to still do that since we're recording. Okay. Wonderful. Well, I put a presentation together, so I'm happy to go through it. I just didn't want to start if we had other people coming and joining us late, because it looks like some of the other sessions haven't had any attendance at all outside of maybe the moderator. So we're in good company. Well, the session is being recorded, and if anyone else down the road is watching this recording and you're following all this back and forth about testing volume and what the plan is, oh, someone else might have just joined us. Hello there. If you're just joining us now, go ahead and say hello in the chat so we know who's here and where you're from. Because I want to tailor this session to you all. Hi, is it Melvina? Melvina from Danae. Excellent. Arizona represents. Yes. Anyone else that's in here in the room? Looks like there's 5 of us, but I think I've waited long enough. I am going to start sharing my screen and getting going, but at any point, feel free to put a message in the chat. But before I start, I want to actually introduce Allie. Allie is our moderator, and I'll wait until after Allie speaks before I do my own intro. So, Allie, I'm going to hand it off to you. As we learn all the technology here, it might take a moment. Okay, so Allie might be putting some messages in the chat box due to some technical issues getting onto the screen. So we will all be watching whatever it is you type in there for us. All right, so Ali mentioned that during the session, we're asking you all to use the blue share audio and video button only during a question and answer period. Once the button is pressed, you'll need to wait for Ali, our moderator, to give you access. If possible, use the web captioning tools. There's a link in there with instructions. With captioning instructions, we'll also ask questions in the chat box or Q&A. That might be faster for you to communicate with me directly as a presenter. And of course, there's a program evaluation at the end of the session. We will ask you at the end to fill that out as well. So, Ali, is it everyone individually that goes to that link? So that we can provide, because that web captioning is important. I just didn't know that was something that we all were doing. Open this page, start captioning. Allow. Okay, I'm going to test this out. Do you all see closed captioning for me at all? Oh, I think you need to go to the website that's dedicated. Follow that link if you need closed captioning. I think that might be the issue. Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Ali. Well, I'm going to go ahead and get started then. I hope if you need closed captioning that you're following those instructions, because when I click that, I see closed captioning and I can see myself talking right now. So whatever you all need. With that said, hello, everyone. I am Corey Shapiro. I'm an associate director of residential life at Arizona State University. I have been involved with ACUHO and ACUHO-I my entire professional career, going back to when I was an undergraduate student leader and we hosted an ACUHO in Tucson, Arizona. And it was probably a few years later when I was a grad student that I was told all about what's outside of these regional associations. What's this international association called ACUHO-I? So I am going to go ahead and share because I did put a little PowerPoint together. One moment here. Share screen. Okay. There we go. Hopefully you all can see this. Oops. I'm also just trying to make sure I can see if anyone has questions. All right. So here we go. All right, ACUHO-I resources. The learning outcomes for this session are pretty simple. Everyone in our regional association being ACUHO, we know what ACUHO is about, but it's not that often that we know about ACUHO-I unless someone comes and speaks, as they did during our opening speakers. At the same point, there's so many great offerings, some of them very affordable or free. And we'll talk a little bit about just what some of those offerings are. So in my role, I've been, just as I've done everything with ACUHO as committees and going to conferences, attending webinars, I do that with the ACUHO-I too. And I try to get my school, ASU, very involved in that regard as well. So when we talk about what is ACUHO-I, it's the Association of College and University Housing Officers International. I also just want to make sure. Yes, good. You see me switch from one screen to the other. So yes, ACUHO-I we have over 950 institutions located all across the globe. We're going to watch a little video a little bit later. But they host international association conferences and expositions every single year. And it's ACUHO-I when we need representation, someone writing something, sending it to the government, talking about the residential hall experience. I know way back when we even had a residence hall day that got passed many years ago by, I want to say it was Bob Dole and other members of Congress because of ACUHO-I and NICUR and different international associations that were representing us. And when something like COVID is happening, well, there are great ways that ACUHO-I engages with associations outside of housing as well for all of us. So there is a due structure that's different than AIMHO. So just because you're a member of AIMHO, it doesn't mean you're a member of ACUHO-I. And if you go on the ACUHO-I website, and I'll gladly share any links before the session's over, or you can Google it, you will learn more about their structure, which is based on the size of your institution. But AIMHO is not automatically a regional part of ACUHO-I, even though there's an affiliation agreement between the two. There's things that ACUHO-I does for us, and there are things that we do for ACUHO-I. It goes both ways, but it's not automatic. It's not like some other associations where you're automatically a member of one, you're automatically a member of both. So the pictures you see are just when we hosted ACUHO-I internationally in Toronto recently in 2019, before the pandemic started. And I was the AIMHO president at the time, so I actually got to spend some quality time with all the other regional association presidents that we shared a regional social together. So there were 4 regions together. So as I get into just a little bit of ACUHO-I 101, I invite you to put anything in the chat if you have questions, or if there's certain things you know about ACUHO-I. I'm all ears. I'd love to learn a little bit more about your own experiences. But as you can see, just from this slide alone, I just put a little bit of a summary of what you can expect by being a part of ACUHO-I. There are conferences and meetings and symposiums, just like AIMHO, but on a much larger, grander scale. We also do a lot to engage our future professionals, our undergrad students, our graduate students. There's also, we have institutes for all of our current professionals. Some of these you probably heard about already, since we talk about them a lot and we market them at AIMHO, but then some of them you probably haven't heard about. I learned new things as I was preparing for this session as well. You also have online learning. We're going to talk a little bit about some ways in where, instead of being in person at an experience, you can certainly have some online experiences too. There's knowledge resources and many ways to continue to give back, just as you may already do in AIMHO, but it's never occurred to you, you could do that on an ACUHO-I level as well. All right, let's talk about the first of these conferences. Again, our last ACUHO-I conference and exposition in person was in Toronto, and this upcoming year, we're going to resume them after 2 years of virtual experiences. It's going to be in Pittsburgh this upcoming June. And at these conferences, just like AIMHO, but with a lot more people, instead of hundreds of people, you have thousands of people all in one place. And one of my favorite sessions there is the sprint session, where one of our own AIMHO members, Whitney from the University of Arizona, actually was one of the sprint session presenters this past year, where everyone was given only, I want to say it was 10 minutes to give quite an in-depth presentation with incorporating the slides as much as possible. So the conference and exposition is a great way to meet people all around the world. You also have 3 different conference experiences in the same city. I remember we hosted these different conferences. It's usually in October. They were all just hosted virtually. However, we hosted them all in Scottsdale a couple years ago. And this upcoming year, they will be in New Orleans in October 2022. So obviously, instead of ACUHO-I being all everyone come together, just like AIMHO is about, when you have a specific conference for business operations staff, for our academic initiatives partners, or our APA facilities partners, there are a lot of great opportunities by going to a conference that specializes in their area. We also have a global summit. This experience is hosted at 2 different times at 2 different places. It's virtual right now, but this is an opportunity to get partners from all over the world to come. And of course, anyone is welcome to attend, but it really does have a global focus. And while ACUHO-I is international, that's what the I stands for, the Association of University Housing Officers International. The Global Summit really does provide just that piece, the global piece. And it's a great way for everyone to learn from each other, and time zones are very much taken into consideration. State of the profession. This is for our senior housing officers, where there's an invite that's sent specifically to all of our member schools, inviting their chief housing officer or other senior housing officers to attend. And this is an opportunity not only for presentations, but for follow-up dialogue as well. The dialogue is just as important as the presentation part. And it's to really talk about what is the state of our profession. And then you have different symposiums. You have one that's small schools focus, and another that's live-in staff focus. And these symposiums have appeared as maybe a one-day of presentations followed by some dialogue. Those symposiums have taken place as a result of task forces and committees that have done research and gotten a lot of important feedback. Okay, I'm going to switch back real quick to see if we do have any questions. None yet. Okay. So picking up where I left off, let's talk about engaging future professionals. This is actually one of my favorite parts of our associations in general. And the first of these, if you have not heard of Stars College, that's an amazing experience. And you can see me smiling in the corner while taking a selfie with all the Stars College participants a couple years ago. I had the honor of being a faculty member and representing the AIMHO region back in the day. And this is an opportunity for 60 students, undergraduate students, that are interested in learning more about what it means to not just be a student affairs professional, but to be in housing. And they go through several days, 3 days of experiences at a local school in the city that ACUHO-I will be hosted in. And yes, it's been virtual like everything else, but back in 2019, it was hosted at the University of Toronto, Mississauga. And it was definitely going to be involved somewhere in the Pittsburgh area in 2022. So it's a great way for our stars, our future professionals, undergrad students, to apply and to get to know not only each other, but a number of faculty members. And this is something that AIMHO always has some great students, but we could get more people to apply. It'd be great to have more stars from AIMHO. And there are lots of scholarships, both in our region as well as nationally, that can apply to this as well. The housing internship program. I know at ASU, at Arizona State University, we actually use this program for our summer conference housing, and so do a lot of other schools. But this is a great way for undergraduates or graduates to get an experience about housing during the summer, either when they're in undergrad, in between undergrad and grad school, or in between their years in grad school. And a lot of AIMHO's schools are a part of this program. And there's a picture of some of the spotlights for our interns over the last few years. Now, TPE, the Placement Exchange. This is actually a collaboration between ACUHO-I and NASPA, one of our international student affairs associations. And until COVID appeared, this was an in-person experience where not only did those looking for jobs go, so interviewees, but interviewers, we would literally have 600 schools conducting over 10,000 interviews over 4 days. And it's an amazingly organized experience for our future professionals to go and interview and get hired. But it's also a great place for us to go and interview those quality candidates as well. And this experience this year will be virtual for another year. And then the Leadership Academy, ACUHO-I. This is actually not just, I don't know if this is future professionals, but it's helping our professionals into the future by providing some opportunities, especially for underrepresented populations. So I believe it's women of color that this academy takes a cohort and puts a lot of special emphasis on helping them get to that next place in their careers as well. All right, let's see. Any questions? Hi, Savannah. Yes, I've been talking about the engaging future professional slides. Is that what you see right now on your screen? Melvina, Ali, Savannah? Okay. So I am going to, tell me if it changes again as we get to institutes. Perfect. Thank you. I will do it this way, a little different than what I was doing before with sharing screens. So thank you very much. With that said, let's talk institutes. One institute, the James Grimm National Housing Training Institute, has been around for many years, and it's been focused on 3 to 7 years of experience for someone looking to go from an entry-level to a mid-level position in housing. And one of the great things about NHTI, and this applies to our senior and mid-level professional institutes as well, is we have not only standards within ACUHO-I, but we also have a number of different competencies. When I say a number, I'm talking about 50 or more, that NHTI takes those and in clusters of 3 or 4 professionals with a faculty member, you really try to figure out how those competencies apply to you as a professional and where you want to go in the future. So NHTI for years took place in person at different schools, whether it was University of Florida or Maryland or Georgia. And then in more recent years, I know that TCU is actually the host, but it's hosted virtually at this point. This is an amazing opportunity. And some of the professionals I know in our field, it was through NHTI that I really got to know them when I attended 14 years ago. So I strongly recommend keep that in the back of your mind, especially if you haven't hit that 3 to 7 year mark yet. And there are scholarships that are provided to AIMHO members every year that are considering attending NHTI. Now, the Senior Housing Officer Institute and Mid-Level Institute are exactly what they sound like. They are for our senior housing officers, our mid-level professionals, or those who aspire to get to those points. And I know at AIMHO, we have these institutes and symposiums in AIMHO College, and that's great. But when you all of a sudden start meeting professionals from all over the world that are aspiring as well, there's just something special about that. So I definitely encourage you to take a look on the ACUHO-I website about these institutes. You'll find individual pages for every bullet that we're talking about today. Now, the Multicultural Institute. In a field where social justice and inclusion and equity and diversity are such a key part of everything that we do, our Multicultural Institute used to be a part of the ACUHO-I International Conference and Exposition experience every year. But this past year, we had our 3rd year where this has been a standalone, separate institute. So there's nothing like being at an institute that has an area specifically that you're passionate about. And the Multicultural Institute is certainly for everyone. You don't have to be a professional of color to attend. This is for anyone with a passion in social justice and multiculturalism and so on and so forth. Now, the Aspiring Directors Institute, that's exactly what it sounds like. We have a lot of professionals, whether they're community directors, assistant directors, coordinators, whatever it may be, that really don't intend to be in our field forever. Maybe spend 3 to 5 years in housing and then go and do other great things in student services. But there are also those people that just aspire to be a director someday. And I mean, I'm honored to be consider myself one of those, where housing has just been such an important part of my professional journey. Well, that's what's created the Aspiring Directors Institute. Is there are a number of people that have felt the same way, that wanted that kind of an experience or to give that experience to others. And that's where that institute has come up. And then finally, study tours. This is really geared a lot more towards our international members. But at ACUHO-I every year, when we host in person, there's always a study tour option, especially for our international members. If you're flying all the way from, let's say, South Africa, it's great if you come a few days early and participate in a study tour and visit schools in the area and meet some of the members at those different institutes beforehand, including Stars College is a good example. We would have a lunch dedicated for our undergrads to meet ACUHO-I members from around the world as part of the Stars College experience and the study tour experience. So those are just some of our institutes. And I want to make it clear, I love talking, but I love having a dialogue too. So if there are any questions or anything you want me to elaborate on, feel free to put that in the chat. Okay, online learning. So courses and certificates. So this is something ACUHO-I has invested a lot of money and attention and curriculum into creating courses that for some of our schools, it's great because you can literally have this be your student staff training or professional staff training experience as part of your training. I know at Arizona State University, we haven't actually used those specific courses, but we have done some of our certificate programs. In fact, a number of years ago, I was one of several people who enrolled in the certificate in housing assessment. And that's still an active certificate program in the ACUHO-I website, even to this day. And they're quite pricey, but when you have that certificate to show that you've accomplished something, or it's something you can share with your school. I know for a number of years, we had assessment programs and committees as a result of me just completing that program at my institution. So courses, yes, that could be something that your entire senior leadership team or all the community directors go through together. And it is self-paced. It doesn't have to be done very quickly. Then you have webinars and roundtables, just like AIMHO does. And if you're a member of ACUHO-I as an institution, that means all your employees are a member. So that means all the webinars that are out there, anyone can attend. And with the talent that goes international, you have so many amazing people that present webinars or that lead the roundtables. I am so sorry. That's I'm hoping that I'm actually not at home. I have a day off, but I lost my internet, so I'm at my parents' place. Yay for them living in the Phoenix area. So hopefully we don't have any other distractions. I'm sorry. Let's pick up with virtual summits. You have so many in-person experiences that we look forward to year after year, but because of the pandemic, that hasn't been a possibility this last year and a half, 2 years. And a lot of the conferences this upcoming year are still virtual. The virtual summit was an online alternative to hosting an international in-person conference experience. So we had a virtual summit this past year for ACUHO-I, and it's hosted in the summertime, just like ACUHO-I is. But the nice thing is you can get passes for your entire team at a much more discounted rate than if you would have had an in-person experience. And it's just accessibility is great when you have online experiences like this in general. So those are your online learning. Now, knowledge resources. There's a lot on here, and I'm not gonna spend too much time on all of these, but we have a lot of different kinds of learners out there. I know there's a lot of audio learners where having some of our past ACUHO-I leaders and past directors of housing telling their stories in a podcast. I'm not a podcast person, but I forced myself to learn how to use a podcast just so I can hear some of their dynamic stories. But then you have the researchers among us. We love reading journals. For some of us, that might be dry, but for some of us, we thrive with that. Yes, we have our very own Journal of College and University Student Housing, along with another publication, the Talking Stick magazine. Both of those are great ways to learn either about research or just about stories and experiences that we have in the field. There are such great articles, and we even recognize one of those articles each year with the ACUHO-I Awards. Our Campus Housing Index. Have you ever had an experience when you've been told, oh, hold on. Are you still able to see me? Yes, good. So yes, Campus Housing Index. I've been told before, can you find out what other schools in AIMHO are doing, or what other schools in ACUHO-I are doing? Well, the Campus Housing Index, we enter all sorts of information into a database on behalf of your school, and you can get limited free resources that you can then see, including compensation reports. How much is a community director or a director getting at a different school on average in the region or internationally? But there are all sorts of other areas, from facilities to operations to residential life. And so you can pay to have access, unrestricted access to the Campus Housing Index. And you don't just look up one school, but you can choose, you can look up a collection of, I think it's 10 or 12 or more schools, or maybe the AIMHO region as an example. Now there's a bookstore. And occasionally the bookstore has great deals, including books that are being phased out. One of my favorite books for all those RHA advisors out there is Advice for Advisors, Advising a Residence Hall Association. Yes, it's a published book with such amazing resources, and it's on clearance at this point. So I believe that they have been ranging in price from $5 to $20 over the years. But when it first came out, I mean, they were $40 books. And there's so many amazing bookstore books. But then we also, a couple years ago at ASU, we used the Basics program. And it was created, you can see a picture of some of the cards and the books. Well, the Basics program is specifically located in the bookstore, where a couple of ACUHO-I members, including one of our own Arizona State University alumni, put together this amazing program that was our engagement model at ASU for several years. So the bookstore has a lot of great resources, but so does the library. Just like a bookstore when you're buying things versus a library where you check out books, it's the same way with ACUHO-I. If you're a member of ACUHO-I, take advantage of free resources. And I remember when I was looking into my doctoral dissertation topic, I actually went into the library, found some great resources, but I wanted more. So I contacted one of the ACUHO-I librarians, and they actually did some work for me and some digging for me. And it was so easy, and it helped tremendously with my dissertation. All right. I am looking to see, because my eyesight is not that great, standards and core competencies. We've talked about that before. Okay, sorry about that. I don't know if each time I go back and forth, if I lose the image, but it's back. So yeah, standards. Every professional association has standards, and that's something that we all should be thriving to live as a professional. Either the ACUHO-I standards or the NASPA standards or ACPA standards. So we certainly have our own, and I told you the institutes do a lot of work around core competencies. So research and data, I'm going to actually show you a brief video in just a moment to give myself a break so I can have some water, but also to share one of my favorite little video clips. It's under 5 minutes, and it shows some of the research and data collected in ACUHO-I both from the Campus Housing Index and other surveys. And then finally, the directory. You just sometimes just need to know who to contact at another school, maybe at a benchmarking institution. And when you have 950 members of ACUHO-I around the world, it's easy to look somebody up and figure out who to contact. So if you are a member of ACUHO-I, like ASU is, like Savannah is, you can contact me, for instance, to learn more about how to access the resources. But you all want to talk to whoever at your own institution is that official member so that they could get you whatever resources you want. So with that said, I'm excited to share a quick video with you. And I am going to hope that this video, let's switch my sharing real quickly here. Nope, not to that. Share screen. So this was from 2019, the research that was done and shared with us at the conference. The numbers, I'm sure, have changed due to the pandemic, but I'm excited to still show you the kind of work ACUHO-I does for us. I'm going to pause it for a second. Can somebody just tell me real quickly if it's working in the chat box? Can you see? Perfect. Thanks, Savannah. Thanks, Sally. Okay, now I got to get back to it. I shouldn't have done that. Okay, here we go. Aim ho! Yes. Oh, no. Hold on. I'm stopping it. Okay. And we're back. All right. And we only have another, I think, 1 to 2 slides top. So 1 second. Just going to share one more time. And here we go. Thank you for all bearing with me in the technology. There we go. So thank you. I love that video. And I think it says so much about our profession that we can gather that kind of information. And I hope you learned something about our profession just by watching that from 2 years ago. So the next 2 slides, as we get ready to wrap this up, is about giving back. ACUHO-I, similar to AIMHO, I mean, we have so many opportunities to give back. First, with so many different institutes and conferences and symposiums, it's so easy to be a part of a different host committee or a given host committee of any sort. You also can run for the executive board. The pictures at the bottom are this past year's members of the executive board, and we just elected a couple of new ones for 2022. There are also committees and task forces, and there are a lot of different committees that accomplish a lot of amazing things. And those task forces really do help us determine what are our needs in our association. And we need members to step into those. And I'm very honored to say that AIMHO has quite a bit of representation on committees and in leadership roles and task forces and host committees. And we have had a number of our different members of our executive board were in AIMHO previously. I don't think any of them are currently, though. Volunteers, we're always looking for volunteers to step in to being on these committees, to be a volunteer, like a moderator, like Ali is doing right now. And just so many ways to give back to this association. And I put award nominations because ACUHO-I, just like AIMHO, lots of different ways to recognize people. And there are award nominations for ACUHO-I awards, as well as other ways to recognize. And I know AIMHO does this, and they've been accepting award nominations previously as well. So these are just a few ways to give back. But one final way that I want to highlight, you've heard Mari talk about the ACUHO-I Foundation. This is really how early on in my career I went to some of these different experiences, from NHTI to how we get money to send people to ACUHO-I for AIMHO each year, or just from AIMHO to Stars College. or NHCI. Like there's so many different ways where we have money available to give, to help other people, to help someone who really might not have the money to go to a $2,000 conference. And that's great. I know, especially for our undergrad students, trying to get them engaged and involved. They do a lot of subsidizing so that it is affordable to get an internship. And also just the research that's done. So much of that is through money that ACUHO-I gets and raises through the foundation. This is our 70th anniversary. So the 1951 club, and yeah, which is 70 years ago. They always have the different auctions, for instance, silent auctions or raffles and drawings. So if you go to the ACUHO silent auction, I know there's about 20 prizes now, but they're hopefully adding some more. That's a great way to give back because all the money, 100% of it, that's collected from that goes into the foundation as part of our own contribution to helping our members. So I hope that that's something that you all can give even just $1 at the conference and bid on some items and maybe get something nice for some of the contributions you're about to make. So that's the foundation there. With that said, on this last slide here, I'm done sharing. I just know that this has made such a big difference for me. And I'm sure that if any of you have been involved in any capacity, you've learned something about yourself and attended something or aspire in one way or another because of ACUHO-I or AIMHO or other associations. So are there any questions that anyone has or anything you'd like me to elaborate upon? I know we have the session technically goes until 1 o'clock. We originally listed as 90 minutes because we want everyone going into the networking area for that last half an hour. But is there anything about ACUHO-I that I can elaborate on how you can get the most out of ACUHO-I? Feel free to put any questions in the chat, or if you want to ask for permission, I think that's how I got to be able to do this. There's no reason we couldn't see and hear you as well if you want to speak. But is there anything you'd like to know or that you want to share? And I can certainly stick around for a few minutes after this if anyone wants to talk one-on-one about anything. I'll also put my email in the chat box should you have any follow-up questions. Oh, Ali, yes, that's the link. So yes, to contribute your $1 or more and bid on those items. Yes, thank you, Savannah. Oh, Ali's sharing the items that are on there right now. Yeah, oh, it's Southwest Airlines gift card, the earbuds, some comic stuff, some professional development, like 1 hour conversations, whiskey gift cards. I know I contributed some of the gift cards, but hand knit items, absolutely. So, well, thank you all so much for your time and for coming and joining this. Ali, is there anything else that we need to be aware of before we wrap up? Please complete a session evaluation. Well, yes, so tinyurl.com/AIMHO-evals. And thanks for putting that in the chat.
And sorry it took me so long to get this part working. Yes, I have the session evaluation link in the chat as well. I don't see any questions yet, but so there's that. But thank you so much for speaking with us about ACUHO-I, because although I know a little bit, there were a few things that I didn't know. So it was great. So thank you.
Of course. Thank you. And I hope everyone has a great rest of your day, whether other sessions here or meetings at work, maybe a little bit of both. All right. You all have a great rest of your day, and please take advantage of the networking that's going on, especially since we originally thought the session was till 1:30 or 2:30, depending on what time zone you're in. All right. Have a great rest of your day. But bye, everyone.